Boys, there's been a lot going on in the lightweight division recently. Obviously, Islam's vacating, moving up to 170, and we're not going to get to see that Ilya Islam fight that everybody wanted, but we are seeing Ilya versus Charles for the vacated belt. So that leaves a lot of the division kind of stagnant. So today we're going to talk about all the best fights that not necessarily I think the UFC will be making, but fights that they should be making. Fights that make the most sense for fighters and their careers, make the most sense to keep the division running. So, to get straight into it, a fight just outside the rankings I have Bobby Green versus Diego Ferreira. Okay, I don't care what anybody tells me. Bobby Green has a chance in this fight. I understand he got subbed in the first round by Paddy Pimblett. I understand he got knocked out by Mauricio Rufy like 1 minute into the fight. Bobby Green is probably one of the most underrated fighters right now, and the reason for that is people talk about his chin like if he gets hit one time, he's going clean out. He took some crazy shots from Jim Miller and was perfectly fine for that fight. He got rocked maybe once or twice. I don't think his chin is as bad as people like to say he is. I think his striking is on the same level as Diego Ferreira. I am a little bit worried about Diego Ferreira's jiu-jitsu and his takedowns. I don't know if Bobby Green is the best takedown defense, but I think Bobby Green has a really I think he'll be very underrated in this matchup, and I think he actually has a chance here. I could see him with like a third round KO over Diego Ferreira or something like that and just shock everybody. Do I think Bobby Green's ever going to be back in the rankings? Probably not. I kind of see him as like a Kevin Holland for the lightweight division. Like he's always like in the 20 to 12 range and he just kind of floats around there, just wins a fight, loses a fight. Probably nearing the end of his career. He's been knocked out a few times, but I think this is a winnable matchup for him. I think it makes sense for both of them. They're both coming off of losses, and the winner of this can get a shot in the rankings. So, moving on. Listen, kid, I'm sorry to do this. I'm sorry to do this, Michael Chandler, but you have to fight Joel Alvarez, okay? Look, Michael Chandler should not be ranked. Let's just admit it. Michael Chandler has won 1 out of his last 6 fights. Is that right? No. I don't know. He's won 1 out of his last 5 fights, though, okay? This guy got submitted by Dustin Poirier. He got knocked out by Oliveira. Then he lost a decision to Oliveira. Then he got knocked out by Paddy Pimblett. And he lost to Gaethje. He hasn't beat anybody in the top 10 except for Dan Hooker, which is a pretty good win, but still, that was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So Michael Chandler shouldn't be ranked already. Joel Alvarez, he's one of the most entertaining fighters in the sport right now. This guy was supposed to fight Benoit Saint Denis, and I swear on everybody's soul he was going to knock out Benoit. But I think Joel Alvarez is definitely going to be like 2, 3 years from now. I think he'll be in the top 5. I think he'll be a big title contender. I mean, this guy is just every single fight he has, he's like inventing new ways to knock people out, like flying knee across the cage. Oh man, I just know Michael Chandler is gonna come out here and he's gonna be like, I'm gonna knock out Joel Alvarez and I'm gonna rematch somebody in the top 10, but it's just not gonna happen. I think Michael Chandler, he's just been fighting a little bit. I think he is elite, but I think he's been fighting a little bit above the level at which he's at. I think this entire time he should have been fighting like maybe the Gamrots of the division. Somebody closer to like the 10 to 15 range. But I think this is a cool matchup. You could definitely get away with putting this on like the featured fight of a pay-per-view. So you could also make this a fight night main event. I don't know if the UFC would do that because I think besides like the hardcore fans, Joel Alvarez isn't the biggest name yet. But I think this is a good way to get the casuals to know who he is, build a lot of hype around his name, so that maybe after this, after he knocks out Chandler, we could set up a fight against maybe like a Gaethje or a Dan Hooker or a Dustin Poirier, somebody up on that level. On to the next fight, we have Mauricio Rufy versus the winner of Rafael Fiziev and Ignacio Bahamondes. I'll be honest, I don't understand the Rafael Fiziev Ignacio Bahamondes matchup very much. Because Fiziev is like ranked number 7 in the division. He lost a match against Justin Gaethje. But if you go back and watch that fight, honestly, there's an argument to be made that he won the 3rd round and that he won that fight. I'm not going to necessarily say it was a robbery, but I definitely don't think it was like a clean decision. So for him to have to fight outside of the rankings against Ignacio Bahamondes doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Another thing I'll say is Mauricio Rufy and Ignacio Bahamondes. They are both on the same team, so I know they wouldn't fight each other. So I think this is more of if Rafael Fiziev wins, I think Mauricio Rufy should be fighting him. And I think this is a good way to get him into the top 15. He just had that great knockout over Bobby Green. And I just think this makes a lot of sense for the division. I think Rafael Fiziev probably only has one or two more fights left in him. He's getting kind of old. Probably won't ever fight for a belt. So I think using him as a way to get some top contenders into the rankings is a good idea. And on to the next fight, we have Grant Dawson versus Benoit Saint Denis. This is the fight that people want to see, okay? I know everybody hates Grant Dawson for no reason at all. First of all, let me say that people hate on Grant Dawson acting like he's like Marab against Jose Aldo or Mario Batista against Jose Aldo. Man, Jose Aldo, damn. But like he's entertaining. I don't understand it. You watch some of his fights. Just because he's using wrestling doesn't mean he's a boring fighter. He's going out in these fights and he's ground and pounding people. He's going for submissions. He's one of the best grapplers in the lightweight division right now. I one thing I would love to see if he could beat a BSD. I would love to see him fight Gamrot or like one at some point like a year or two from now. I'd love to see Grant Dawson fight Arman Sarukian because I think that'd be sick. But BSD, I think it's weird because before he got his last fight at 315, I think people were hating on him a lot just because he was so overrated. He was a favorite over Dustin Poirier, and then he was like a 4-1 favorite over Renato Moicano, and he got 10-7. But I still think he's pretty elite in the division. I think he's like a top 20 fighter, top 15. So I think this is a good matchup. The winner of this could get somebody in the top 10. And I just think it makes sense for the division. They're both I think the winner of this could build a lot of hype around themselves, gain some fans, and I think it'd just be good overall. Gamrot versus Renato Moicano or Beneil Dariush. They're fighting at UFC 317 in the featured fight. They were originally supposed to fight at UFC 311, I'm pretty sure. But then Arman Sarukian pulled out, so Renato Moicano had to fight Islam. That does suck a little bit because it means Renato had all this hype after the BSD win, and now he's sort of not as hyped because Islam dominated him in the first round and subbed him with a Darce choke. But I still think this is good for the division. The UFC, for some reason, they had Gamrot fight Dan Hooker. He won the fight against Dan Hooker. He got robbed. And now for his next fight, he's fighting Ignacio Bahamondes in the Apex. And the co-main event on a WMA main event. Like, show some respect to Gamrot. This is the best fight on that card. Why are we putting him in the co-main event on a fight night in the Apex with no fans there? There's like 5 billionaires in the front lines watching, and there's nobody else, no crowd, no excitement. The UFC should be marketing Gamrot. He's not this boring fighter. He had a fight of the year contender with Dan Hooker. And I think him versus Renato Moicano or Beneil Dariush is a good idea because I don't think either. Honestly, I don't think any of these fighters have any title implications in their future. But I think Gamrot could pull a win over both of these fighters. I could see Renato Moicano being able to handle the wrestling, but when it comes to the striking, I just think Gamrot is slightly better than both of these guys. If this was Beneil Dariush like three years ago when people were like saying he would be Islam's hardest test before he got knocked out by Charles Oliveira and Arman, I think he has a big chance against Gamrot. But in the current state that look at this guy, dude. He's got like white hair now. It's kind of sad to see. He's getting old, but I remember at UFC 311 when he was supposed to fight, all the videos, it was just like him with his kids. He wasn't training and stuff. He just looks like a dad, man. I kind of feel bad putting him against people like Renato Moicano and all these killers, but I think Gamrot would win both of these matchups. I might pick Moicano, but on to the next fight. Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker. I swear, there was a moment there where I genuinely thought we were about to get Islam versus Justin Gaethje, and I hated every single part of that, okay? Because, listen, yes, he had the Dustin Poirier win. If he had the opportunity to fight for a belt after the win over Dustin Poirier, I would be in complete support of that. But he got brutally dominated and knocked out by Max Holloway, okay? And then he was supposed to fight Dan Hooker, but instead he ended up fighting ranked number 10 Rafael Fiziev. and he won a robbery decision. So I don't ever want to see Justin Gaethje fight for a belt again. I love Justin Gaethje. He's a cool guy. I've met him in LA before, but I just I don't think now that we're in the new age of the UFC with like Charles Oliveira and Arman and Ilya and Islam, I just don't think Justin Gaethje can compete with those people, and it's kind of just a waste of a title shot to give it to somebody like him. I don't think him or Dan Hooker would be able to win the belt in 2025, but this is an awesome fight right here. People remember how excited people were for this fight at UFC 313, so I think we should just rebook it. I know that Dan Hooker, he's on like a 6-fight win streak right now. If he beat a Justin Gaethje, there might be an argument for a title shot, but I just think it's a good fight all around. You can make this the co-main event of maybe UFC 319 or something, something to hype up everybody. I think this on the co-main event of Dricus versus Hamza would be sick. So on to our next fight. Arman Sarukian versus Paddy Pimblett. This is the title eliminator bout that everybody wants to see because there's literally nobody else in the division that should be fighting in a number one contenders match. I talked about this in my last video, like Justin Gaethje, Dan Hooker. These are guys who, yes, they're elite, and yes, if they were to maybe move up to welterweight, they might have a chance up there. But lightweight is one of the most skillful divisions. I don't think they'll ever be able to contend for a title. Arman Sarukian might be the greatest lightweight in the world right now, besides maybe Ilya Taporia, but we haven't really seen Ilya fight except for Jalen Turner at lightweight. Arman Sarukian proved himself against Charles Oliveira at UFC 300, and Paddy Pimblett is probably the most hyped up contender in the division. So I just think this makes sense. They're both on big win streaks. Paddy Pimblett, he's undefeated in the UFC. Arman Sarukian is also undefeated in the UFC except for a robbery loss to Gamrot. So I think this makes sense. I think the winner of this could fight the winner of Ilya and Charles. And honestly, this could just be this should just be the co-main event to Dustin and Max Holloway at UFC 318 because it's happening right after we decide who the new lightweight champion is. It makes sense for the division. It'll keep things rolling. And Arman Sarukian already borderline deserves his title shot, so I just think this makes sense for his career because I think he pretty much dominates a guy like Paddy Pimblett. I think he's better in the striking. I think he's better in the wrestling. I think he has better grappling defense, striking defense. I think his submissions are probably better, although I've seen Paddy Pimblett. Actually, I take that back. I think Paddy Pimblett probably has better submissions, but Arman Sarukian had Charles Oliveira on his back the entire first round. He had him in a guillotine, and Arman Sarukian didn't tap out to that. So I don't think Paddy Pimblett is a better submission artist than Charles Oliveira. I don't think that will be much of a threat against Arman Sarukian. And I think Arman Sarukian would win this, and I think he would probably. I would pick him to beat Charles Oliveira, but I would pick him to lose against Ilya Taporia. But either way, I think he would deserve a title shot after this. And if Paddy Pimblett were to win somehow, let's say he gets a submission in the second round, all of a sudden, one of the biggest names in the sport is now the most deserving contender, and we can have a Ilya versus Paddy Pimblett super fight. I'm cooking right. You guys have to understand. Paddy Pimblett and Ilya Taporia hate each other. They were at that press conference throwing water bottles at each other. Paddy Pimblett was like making fun of Ilya because his country was at war and stuff. Like they hate each other. Okay, this is the perfect timeline. We either get the Arman Sarukian and Charles Oliveira rematch. We get Arman versus Ilya, which is a sick fight. We get Paddy versus Charles Oliveira, and they're like copies of each other. Or we get Paddy Pimblett versus Ilya Taporia, which that's generational beef right there. That would be entertaining. The press conference would be crazy. So I just think this is the best number one contenders match we can make at lightweight right now. And let me know if you guys agree. I'll come back with another video tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a little rant on Dana White because it seems like he's leaving the UFC to go do some promotion on boxing. The thing about Dana White, he genuinely doesn't care about this sport anymore. Like they used to do these announcements for the UFC. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it would be like these big promos like Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. They would have all these interviews across the country and there'd be all these like edits of them arguing with each other. Now it's literally just Dana White. He gets on the Instagram live and he's like, yep. So we're going to have John Jones. Oh, no. We're going to have Charles versus Ilya for the vacated belt, and I'll see you guys. Like, he does not care about his job at all. He's gonna go market some boxing match. I think it's Canelo and Mayweather. So I think the UFC, if the UFC wants to grow as much as possible and accumulate as many fans as possible, then they need to let him go. They need a new spokesperson. They need a new boss. And Dana, he can go focus on boxing. He can go focus on power slap a little bit. But he's just not doing a good enough job at running the UFC right now. Put me in charge. That's what I think. You would never see Dana White putting together a fight like this, Sarukian and Pimblett. I guarantee this isn't what happens. They're gonna have like Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett number one contenders match, and Arman Sarukian's gonna fight like somebody unranked. They tried to do that. They tried to do that. They tried to have Arman Sarukian fight somebody outside of the rankings. So don't tell me I'm crazy because the UFC is not gonna make this fight. But let me know what you guys think about all these fights. I think this is what makes sense for the division, but let me know. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.